Can you hear me, Rebecca? I think you can hear me now. Thank you very much. We're delighted to have you on the screen. We can see you, and we're excited to listen to you in a second. I just need to introduce you to this crowd here. Who is Rebecca Lissner? Rebecca Lissner is one of the key architects of the foreign policy that President Kamala Harris would be conducting if elected President of the United States. Currently, Rebecca serves as the Deputy National Security Advisor to the Vice President, to Kamala Harris, and as an assistant to the President. In other words, she sits right in the White House helping Kamala Harris to design her foreign policy. So we're really excited, Rebecca, to have you here representing the Harris campaign. And without further ado, we want to make the best use of our time. I know you're prepared to offer a statement, so please go right ahead. A very warm welcome to you from this crowd.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. And thank you to the Board of Yes for inviting me to address this year's annual meeting. I know this is your 20th year of gathering, which is an exciting milestone. I'm honored to be here addressing you from the White House, and I bring greetings from Vice President Harris and also from Phil Gordon, who's sorry that he couldn't be with you today. Now, Vice President Harris is proud to have played an integral role in this administration's unwavering commitment to the people of Ukraine in the face of Russia's unprovoked and brutal aggression. As she said at the Summit on Peace in Ukraine in June, she and President Biden are committed to uphold international rules and norms, to defend democratic values and stand up to dictators, and to stand with our allies and partners. Today, I'd like to discuss recent steps the administration has taken to continue our rock-solid support to Ukraine, the Vice President's own track record of diplomatic engagement in furtherance of those efforts, and how she will continue to take action to support Ukraine and to hold Russia accountable. Over the past several months alone, this administration has worked closely with allies and partners around the world to increase our support and to demonstrate the strength of our unity and resolve. In May, the US Congress, thanks to strong advocacy and leadership by President Biden and Vice President Harris, passed supplemental funding that provides more than $60 billion in continued support to Ukraine. Weeks later, when Vice President Harris met with President Zelensky in Switzerland, she announced over $1.5 billion in funding to support Ukraine's energy infrastructure, refugees and internally displaced persons, and civilian security needs. In June, as many of you know, President Biden and President Zelensky signed a 10-year bilateral security agreement, which sent a strong message to the world about the depth of our commitment to Ukraine's security, both now and well into the future. And in July, we saw a historic NATO summit here in Washington, where NATO allies convened the second ever leader-level NATO-Ukraine Council with President Zelensky and laid out a bridge to Ukraine's eventual membership in NATO. Of course, throughout these milestones, the United States has maintained a steady drumbeat of support to the armed forces of Ukraine. Just last week, we announced a new package of $250 million in weapons and equipment to support our Ukrainian partners' continued defense against Putin's aggression. These actions underscore the administration's consistent, enduring, and strong support for Ukraine's defense well into the third year of Russia's further invasion. And importantly, Vice President Harris made our support for Ukraine clear before this invasion even began. She met in Munich with President Zelensky 5 days before Russia's invasion to unveil the plan that Putin had to attack Ukraine and to work with Ukrainian partners and also our European allies to ensure that Ukraine was prepared and that our allies and partners were prepared to stand up for Ukraine. She sat down with President Zelensky and had a critical discussion about our latest intelligence and battlefield assessments and talked about how we could ensure Ukraine would succeed on the battlefield. And she met in Munich with other European leaders to develop a playbook, reflecting what we were seeing in our intelligence and thinking about how we could take rapid action in support of Ukraine when Russia invaded. Since those highly consequential moments, the Vice President has traveled to Poland and Romania on NATO's eastern flank, mere weeks after Russia's invasion, to underscore our ironclad commitment to allies. She's continued to engage with leaders across Europe and around the world about concrete ways to stand with Ukraine and hold Russia accountable. She's met with President Zelensky 6 times, and she's been a leader in our administration to ensure accountability for Russia's actions, including her declaration in 2022 that Russia has committed crimes against humanity in Ukraine. Even as Russia's brutal war has continued, the Vice President and this administration have shown again and again that the United States will continue to stand with the people of Ukraine. And the Vice President is proud of the historic scale, speed, and resolve that the administration and U.S. personnel have shown and continue to show in helping Ukraine defend itself. As the nature of the fight in Ukraine has shifted, we have always responded. From Javelin anti-tank missiles in the early days of the invasion to 155mm howitzer artillery systems, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, HIMARS rocket systems, Bradley fighting vehicles, Strykers, Abrams tanks, armored riverine boats, surveillance and attack drones, DPICM cluster munitions, Patriot air defense batteries, guided smart bombs, ATACMS missiles, and now F-16 fighter jets, plus intelligence sharing and much, much more. The Vice President is also proud of the historic leadership that the administration has shown in mobilizing over 50 nations, 24 times over more than 2 years, to encourage allies and partners to do the same and to stand up in support of Ukraine. That's because Ukraine's fight for its freedom, for its security, its sovereignty, its democracy is also a fight for the international rules and norms that are so important to how Vice President Harris views the world. When she spoke at the Munich Security Conference in February, the Vice President said, and I'll quote directly, "If we stand by while an aggressor invades its neighbor with impunity, they will keep going." And she warned that authoritarians around the world are, quote, watching and drawing lessons. Vice President Harris recognizes that the war in Ukraine is not just about Ukraine. It threatens the very foundation on which our international system is based. Core principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity that are embedded at the foundation of the UN Charter. And as a career prosecutor, Vice President Harris also knows that upholding international rules and norms is what provides security, stability, and order for communities around the world. And this guides her on the world stage. That's why you have seen the Vice President speak with such clarity, strategic and moral clarity, about the importance of Ukraine's future, whether the Munich Security Conference, the Ukraine Peace Summit in June, or her engagements with foreign leaders to include President Zelensky himself. And it is why she will continue to play a leading role in America's steadfast support for Ukraine alongside allies and partners around the world. So thank you again for this opportunity to speak about what this administration has done to support Ukraine and about Vice President Harris's personal commitment to supporting Ukraine now and into the future. And please accept my best wishes for a successful meeting, and thank you again.
Thank you. Rebecca, thank you so much. If I may, I know we don't have time for a longer conversation, but if I may, I'd love to leave you with 2 brief messages. One, please convey to the Vice President of the United States the appreciation of all the members of the participants of this conference for this very, very strong message of support. That's what Ukraine needs, that's what Ukraine deserves. And my second message is this: you might use your influence to tell the Vice President that if elected, one of the best ideas would be for her to choose Ukraine as one of her first trips abroad. So thank you very, very much again. We look forward to staying in touch with you and with your colleagues. And please say hello, of course, also to Phil Gordon, who has been a great friend of many of the people in this room. Thank you so much, Rebecca.